What's up, everyone? Sean CountBlagorath here with an album review, this time of the 2004 Dark Symphony Records release of Morgion, Cloaked by Ages, Crowned in Earth. This is part 3 of my discography review, the final part, unless, well, not, actually this isn't the last part, excuse me. This is the third part. Final part will be their demo compilation once that's out on vinyl. Pretty much I'm reviewing their discography because they're one of my favorite bands of all time, and I find more people need to know about these guys, and they have reunited and are officially playing the Maryland Death Fest this year. Excuse me, next year. They were supposed to this year, but there was a medical problem that caused them to have to cancel, so I wasn't there, so it's kind of good for me, so I'm going to get to see them this year. I'm definitely going to the Maryland Death Fest, and I'm going to witness the reunion of one of the greatest bands in doom metal. And this album is the reason why I say they're one of the greatest bands in doom metal. Cloaked by Ages, Crowned in Earth is an 8-track album that clocks in at a little over an hour of just some of the most amazingly beautiful yet crushing and emotional pieces of doom metal I have ever heard in my life. The emotion and just pure raw atmosphere that comes from this record is something that bands like My Dying Bride can touch, and they can barely touch it when compared to this album. There's just layer upon layer of just sadness and sorrow, yet just straight up beautiful and atmospheric moments, and these passages that you will get lost in and just find yourself sitting there completely and utterly mesmerized by how amazing the parts are to this record. This album kind of picks up where Sonari left off, which is a great thing because Sonari is one of the best albums in doom metal history, and for good reason. The music on that is just, bar none, some of the best I've ever heard. This feels like the logical succession to that record because it takes the more slower moments on that album, which kind of dominated it, and really blends them in much more and much better than they were on Sonari. Not saying it wasn't properly done on that record, but on this one they seem to have put more of an importance on making it sound even better, which is a great thing. There's nothing that feels forced. It all feels 100% natural, but it feels like they've taken a while to compose some of these passages, especially like Ebb Tide parts 1 and 2. Just a massively amazing epic. She the Master Covets, A Slow Succumbing, The Mourner's Oak. Just track after track, just amazing piece of music after amazing piece of music. The mix is absolutely great. I love how this mix sounds. It's very thick. It's much more full sounding than their previous efforts. This one really sounds like they spent a lot of time on the production of it, which is a very good thing. The mixing is great. You can hear everything perfectly. The guitar sounds much bigger and thicker and fatter than it did on the previous albums. Once again, great thing. I love a nice full sounding guitar, and that's what this album delivers, is a very full sounding guitar. It ranges from these slow, clean moments and acoustic parts to these massively just crushing, soul-destroying, and shattering, heavy doom metal parts. And it's all just surrounded with this nice, warm bass tone that carries throughout the whole record. There's some great drumming done on here. Probably the best work that Morgion has done in the drum department. Once again, seems very well thought out, very well played. And that's a major thing with this band that I've always looked at, was how the drums have been able to not only just sound good from a sonic point of view, but actually flow extremely well and keep an interesting beat while not going overboard with its complexity. I don't like doom metal that goes over the top in the drum department. This album does not. It just goes right on the verge of it being over the top, but it's not. It's very simplistic when it needs to be, but it keeps it interesting so it's not boring. And that is a massive, massive thing doom metal drummers really need to work on. And it's done very well on here. Keyboards, not as heavily used on this record as it was on the past one. It's just really there in the background on this one. It's not in the foreground, or even like on their first one. It's kind of been slowly weaned away on this album, and it somehow fits really well for how it flows. Hold on one second. Excuse me. Yeah, pretty much the way the keyboards are on this, it keeps in the background, but it has a very full sound, and it just adds to the fullness and the thickness of the mix, and that's really good. It adds to the atmosphere, which is always great. Now I'm going to get to the part that blows me away every time I hear this album. That is the lyrics and the vocals. These lyrics are probably some of the most thought-provoking and well-written lyrics I have ever seen in my life. And I hold these lyrics in high regard, especially on A Slow Succumbing, The Mourner's Oak. Just those two songs, to me, are the embodiment of just very well thought out lyrics, but the embodiment of pure raw emotion put into lyrical form where it doesn't come across as cheesy. I love the vocal delivery too, because it takes the lyrics, what they're already telling you, and if you read them separate and you don't listen to the music, it feels very poetic. But when you hear the vocals with it, it adds a whole new level of emotion and darkness to the lyrics, and that's very good. Just like on the past releases, there's lots of growls, but what dominates this album is a very, very good clean singing, which has never been done on a Morgion record. And oh my god, when I heard this, I never listened to this album before I bought the vinyl. I just bought it because I knew it was Morgion and I needed it to complete my discography. So I bought it. And as soon as I heard the clean vocals on A Slow Succumbing, that just blew my mind away to the point where I sat there feeling just almost in shock, but overwhelmed emotionally by how amazingly perfect the clean vocals are with the lyrics and the music. They're catchy, but they're nothing that's poppy, and that's a very hard balance to find in metal, is something that's catchy but not poppy and not really generic. And the vocal delivery is far from generic and far from poppy, far from anything negative I can say. This is probably one of the best clean vocal deliveries I've ever heard. Just some amazing, amazing passages, and the growls just accent the angrier, more heavy moments when it really needs that extra push. The growls are there, and they just kick you straight in the dick, and I love that. The growls are just very, very low, almost Swallow the Sun kind of low, guttural, death doom style growl. Very good, but you can understand everything he's saying, which is a major plus. This is a relatively hard record to find from my personal experience. You can get this at Hell's Headbangers, I believe, for roughly $14 on vinyl. I recommend it because the artwork's amazing. It was put out through Creation Records in conjunction with Dark Symphony. You can find the CD of it. I saw it Blind Rune Recordings website for $11, I believe it was. Whatever format you decide to get this on, please do, because this is an album that not only will completely take you away and overwhelm you with so many different emotions, but it's a record you'll keep coming back to time and time again. I've listened to this probably a good 30 times since I've had it this year. And every time I listen to it, it just gets better and better. This is probably one of the few records I have given this score that I will ever give a score to. I've given this score to, I want to say, 3 records in the past. And this is going to be the 4th one. This is a perfect 10 out of 10. There is nothing bad about this. There is nothing that I can complain about. There is no flaws in this record. This is the epitome of what Death Doom should sound like. What amazingly beautiful music should sound like. This is probably one of the best records I've ever heard in my life, and therefore a perfect 10 out of 10. So, I want to thank you guys for watching, thank you for subscribing, and as always, keep it metal.